Hey guys, how you going? Just doing a little video here to walk you through finding your ideal supplier. So initially we'll look at where geographically in the globe we're going to find these suppliers. The next we'll run through the difference between trading companies and manufacturers, and lastly just touch on the size of the supplier that's going to fit your needs best. So geographically, where are we looking for these goods? So 9 times out of 10 you're going to be looking in China. They produce a huge volume of stuff for all different countries around the world. Don't think stuff that coming from China is rubbish quality. You can get, Apple iPhones are made in Shenzhen in China, all the way down to, cheap plastic goods. So you can get pretty much anything you want in China. The only other countries we could look at are, generally speaking, Vietnam is starting to emerge as a bit of a winner out of the US-China trade war. They have really low, a lower than China wage cost, and they're set up to build textiles. So if you're looking for backpacks or shoes or any sort of clothes, Vietnam might be somewhere to look at. I don't have any personal experience with Mexico, but I've heard there's some factories being started up in Mexico. Apparently it's a little bit more expensive, but it's cheaper to ship to the United States if that's where you're taking it to. And the only other outlying case is just look at what's produced domestically. I was recently looking for a friend of mine, an electrician in Australia, just copper electrical wire to run through residential properties. I said, yeah, sure, I'll have a look for you. At the time, I didn't realise that it was produced domestically, and when I started getting quotes coming back from China, they weren't, especially once you brought factored shipping in there, because it's quite heavy to ship. It actually didn't work out that much more competitively, so we ended up just continuing to supply in Australia. But yeah, the long of the short is, chances are you're going to be sourcing in China, but just consider your options before you go and sign any contracts. Okay, so let's talk about manufacturers versus trading companies. I'll start out with manufacturers because it's very simple, and I think most of you guys know what they are. Basically, these are the guys who produce the goods. They take raw materials and they produce a value-added product. This is where I like to go primarily. These guys are going to be the cheapest. They're going to get you the best deal. They do everything very efficiently generally. Sometimes they can even source shipping for you, which is helpful. I do recommend checking their price just to make sure they're not increasing the price on you on their shipping. As I said, the benefit is that they're cheaper. The negative is that they can only produce one type of good. So I've got a phone case here. They'll be able to produce these in different colours and different variants probably, but they're not going to be able to produce, say, a metal product. So they'll be able to produce the phone case, but they're not then going to be able to produce, say, a microphone or something like that for a bundle. Adversely, with trading companies, these guys are middlemen, so they're going to be able to buy whatever you want from different manufacturers. They will get a really good price generally. They'll buy huge amounts of stock and then on-sell it on for a premium. These guys will generally have a lower minimum order quantity, as they generally, not always, but generally will have the stock sitting there. And you can get pretty much whatever you want from them. They'll be able to source things from different places, which makes it really helpful if you have, say, 10 different items that you want to source for a bundle that aren't going to come from the same factory. Yes, you're going to pay a little bit more than you would from the manufacturer, but you're still going to save yourself a lot of money as compared to buying it in the West. And on these small orders, the dollar value that you're going to pay as a premium over a manufacturer isn't going to be that much. Say you're paying 10% more on, say, 250 units. It may be 10%, but that dollar value isn't that large, so it's just really not an issue, especially when you're probably going to get it from about 50% of the value that you would landed in the US or Canada or Australia or whatever. So yeah, they're the major differences between manufacturers and trading companies. Just so lastly, I want to talk about the size of the factory. This will be a little bit difficult to gauge early on. But as soon as we start talking about minimum order quantity, so the MOQ, the minimum number of units that we can purchase from this factory, this will start to give us a bit of a gauge. I mean, obviously, if it's a really high number, they're going to be a larger factory, and we're only going to be a smaller customer to them, so this is not ideal. Even though their unit price may be very, very low, please don't get the shiny object syndrome with this. You know, you might look at it and say, oh, we can buy a year's stock for the same price as 3 months worth of stock in Australia. It seems good and well, but the whole point of sourcing in China or Asia is to make things cheaper and to keep more cash in your business for longer. So, you know, if you can pay a slightly higher unit price, but only buy, you know, a quarter of the unit value, and just keep the order value, the unit quantity the same as what you'd be buying in Australia, and then the total value of the order is going to be much cheaper than this the really large suppliers. So with that extra cash, you can use it to pay wages, pay overdraft and interest. So just think about the cash flow situation as well, and don't look at these really low unit prices and get, you know, all excited about it, because obviously that's only one part of the pie. Also, factories that are too small, we don't want to deal with these guys either. They might get really excited about our order and you know, want to make this order happen for us. But you know, if they've never done an order of this size before, they may not be outfitted to do it. They may take too long. They may cut corners in order to get it finished on time. And we really want to be set up with someone who is able to do this and service us for a long time. So realistically, we want someone that sits in the middle, that's used to dealing with orders our size, but we're not the biggest customer of them. So in summary, guys, we just need to determine what region of the globe we're going to source our products from. 9 times out of 10, this is going to be China. But don't forget to just check in our backyard and see if there is products being produced locally that may actually be competitive. Also, whether we're dealing with a trading company or a manufacturer, you guys will have to decide that for yourselves, you know, depending on your situation. And lastly, just finding a factory that will suit you, that's the right size. But thanks very much for listening, guys. And if all this just sounds a little bit tricky, or you'd like to outsource it, as I know a lot of businesses are, I run a global product sourcing and freight consulting company. So if you've got any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to help you. But bye for now.